Good evening, everybody. We're back for some more Tyranny tonight. Utterly failed to start at the time that I wanted, but that's fine. We will make the most of the time that we have. Looks like the stream has a decent pulse as far as the bit rate's concerned. It's always a little bit of a question mark just because Twitch, for some reason, it doesn't exactly have a delay, but it doesn't always like to give me the up-to-date information. All right. I also think my time played in this game is completely skewed because I've had a couple of times where I finish the stream, but for one reason or another, I forget to quit the game. And so I've probably got like 16 hours in this that have nothing to do with what on earth is going on here. I will fix that in a moment, but it shouldn't be doing that. Alright, that was very odd. I did update my drivers, which isn't the full reason why I'm late, but okay. But yeah, so my computer has seen this screen much longer than it probably would be reasonable to, but there we have it. Right, now I believe I saved at Lethian's Crossing because I didn't, at least in terms of an immediate interaction, I didn't find anything in the old walls to open that one room. So, going back to the quest log. So I suppose for Seats of Power, I've got 2 more spires to check out. Now I would guess based on the map, we're going to need to do a little bit more in terms of the main quests to get to the spires, which is fine. I'm not in any particular rush. Seats of Power, you have been witness to your own unique ability to ascend to the tops of spires. These monolithic structures serve as excellent bases of operation. In order to bolster the war efforts in the tiers, you should seek out more spires. Perhaps by doing so, you might uncover more of the mystery behind their power and why you have such an affinity to them. Claim the remaining spires in the tiers. Across the tiers, there are a number of spires that dot the horizon. The 2... not true, 3, you have claimed have proven to be a valuable asset to the war effort in the tiers. Claiming the rest should help you widen your conquest. We're going to be working on the Weight of Aegis, although I think it's supposed to be wordplay on Weight of Ages. Barrack wants to know if there's a way that he can be freed from his armored prison. Without the age of a forgebound, there's no way to help Barrack. Search for a specialized smith who would not be opposed to disobeying Kairos' law. With wealth and influence, you may be able to hire a loyal smith and provide them with a forge at which to work. An awakened spire might make the perfect location for a smithy. You have heard of a mage smith in the Stone Sea that works outside of Kairos' law. She may be able to assist you. And Zedna at Lethian's Crossing may be able to provide the services of Kairos' forgebound smiths if you can sway her loyalty to you. So it does seem like it's giving me a few different options to complete the quest, but I think the Stone Sea seems to be the best option. Trial of Archons. So I do need to specifically read the wording on this because I keep being a little surprised by some of the details in here. But so the game is being internally consistent. I just sort of I chafe a little bit at some of the specifics. So, a Trial of Archons. Tunon is displeased with the chaos that emerged from Vendrian's Well and believes that one of the warring Archons may be principally responsible for the civil war that now grips the tiers. As you travel the Younger Realms, take note of any evidence of negligence, incompetence, or outright treason found within the Disfavored or Scarlet Chorus. So evidence against Graven Ash, all uncovered evidence will be listed here. The evidence against Graven Ash so far is disfavored forces were either unqualified or too undermanned to take Duskwatch by force, demonstrating Ash's misappropriation of soldiers even in his home territory. Disfavored soldiers wanted the Steadfast Insignia, an artifact lost in the Old Walls. They sent a civilian to trespass within the Bladegrave Old Walls on their behalf. Ash's daughter colluded with the Unbroken Regent, producing an heir. During the conquest, Ash sent his soldiers to march on Sentinel Stand, even though the edict was imminent. The disfavored attempted to bribe you to get iron weapons during the conquest, and disfavored soldiers wanted access to the Twin Rivers Old Walls. Evidence against the Voices of Nerat. All uncovered evidence will be listed here. The Voices of Nerat was feeding the stalwart defenders disfavored battle plans during the conquest. The Scarlet Chorus aided the Unbroken during the Civil War. Jagged Remedy was conscripting from the Unbroken when his forces were forbidden from the region, and the Voices of Nerat were using Hurakan Bronze to funnel weapons to the Vendrian Guard. The thing that I find kind of funny here is that so Tunon in the original mission said that there was one clearly responsible for the Civil War. And I guess I at least sort of understand the idea of negligence and incompetence potentially contributing to the Civil War. But it would strike me, in addition to the evidence against the Voices of Nerat, which is genuine treason in most of these cases, right? So I understand that this may be an action overtly against the disfavored, but the fact of the matter is the disfavored is an ally. They are all working towards the same end. They are all Kairos' servants, and so ultimately this is an effort to. It's not just about embarrassing the disfavored. It's specifically acting against the interests of the conquest. The Scarlet Chorus aided the Unbroken during the Civil War. Again, this is if the Unbroken are a resistance against Kairos forces, I'm going to be a little more angry at that than misjudging the number of troops required to assault a stronghold. Conscripting from the Unbroken, this I'm not going to go so far as to say is full-on treason, right? For the same reason that it's like, well, look, bolstering the Scarlet Chorus, ultimately is aiding Kairos. Now, in this case, it's not permitted. It's acting against the law, but it's much the same way as, the disfavored attempting to bribe me to get iron weapons. Although, I believe that was also true of the Scarlet Chorus. And the Voices of Nerat were using Hurakan Bronze to funnel weapons to the Vendrian Guard. Again, this is very clearly providing assistance to the enemy. It's why the edict was proclaimed. And then, of course, there was that revelation in Vendrian's Well. I guess that would probably be the thank you to the Voices in this line here. So, smaller list, but these are things that are very clearly acting against Kairos' interests, whereas in the case of Graven Ash, sure, you could say Ash's daughter colluded with the Unbroken Regent, producing an heir, but I mean, ultimately, she also specifically took actions to remove them as an heir. And she is not Ash, so I'm sort of at a point here where I'm like, yeah, this is bad. I'm not going to put her in charge, but I'm not entirely sure that this is evidence against Ash, given the fact that Ash almost certainly would have killed the kid. What else did we do? Yeah, so I mean, wanting to go into the Old Walls, that's law breaking, right? I'll put that alongside trying to get the iron weapons through bribery. But ultimately, that's in aid of the war effort, whereas these are very clearly halting the war effort and strengthening the enemy. Sending the soldiers to march on Sentinel Stand, even though the edict was imminent. I'm not going to say this is not an argument for Ash as a great military leader, but compared to treason, I'm not entirely sure that's one that I want to. I guess the biggest thing that I can say here is it's not entirely clear to me that these acts of incompetence are more directly, and even then that may be a bit harsh. It's hard for me to draw a straight line between that and the Civil War, whereas, providing the weapons for the rebels strikes me as very directly contributing to the Civil War. So, needless to say, I'm not. There may be more entries on the disfavored, but I am not at all convinced that I am not at all convinced that this is a particularly compelling evidence against the disfavored compared to what we've got in the Voices of Nerat. And most importantly, we have not been able to navigate the Scarlet Chorus areas. So this is presumably if we had as much access to the Scarlet Chorus territories, we would probably be finding similar items to this. And I also might just be biased against the Scarlet Chorus. Hidden Truths. A sage has offered you valuable information in exchange for the preservation of her research and the well-being of her scribe. The sage has directed you to a ruined estate in the Bastard Tier. Extinguishing the Flames. Graven Ash wants you to finish what was started during Kairos' conquest of the Tiers and destroy the burning library once and for all, denying the Scarlet Chorus the library's forbidden knowledge. Travel to Effigy. Merrick leads a group of disfavored Oathbound in the burning library and may be able to help you, though Ash lost contact with him in recent weeks. Travel to Merrick's last known location at Effigy and gain his assistance if possible. And the Fire Inside. The Voices of Nerat provided you information regarding the identities of those responsible for the deaths of Verse's Scarlet Fury sisters. Help Verse track down the killers and attain some resolution. Talk to Verse about the missive regarding her sisters. In the missive, the Voices of Nerat asked you to provide Verse with new evidence regarding the people that killed the members of her previous gang. Speak with Verse and discuss how you will proceed. We will do so when we get the reply from the Voices of Nerat. So it seems to me we'll do Weight of Aegis, Hidden Truths, and probably by then we can do the Fire Inside. But for now, Weight of Aegis will be the Magesmith in the Stone Sea. Which I'm guessing is this. The Secluded Forge. It will take 1 day, 16 hours to complete your journey from Lethian's Crossing to the Secluded Forge. Encounter in the Stone Sea. Along the road, you cross paths with a trio of Tiersmen clad in the ragged remnants of noble finery. They appear haggard, hands blemished with dirt, faces sunburnt and peeling. Their guard has been reduced to 2 men in dented bronze, each supporting mangy beards and visible exhaustion. One of the Tiersmen notes your banner and hails you. With grim stoicism, the woman explains that she, her husband, and his sister travel from their home towards the Bastard City to bend the knee to the Archon of Justice and swear eternal fealty to the Overlord's glorious rule. Unfortunately, they have been harried incessantly by highwaymen and Scarlet Chorus raiders alike, and fear they may not live to see their destination. We can speak with them, we can attack them, or let them be. Speak with them. Your weapon remains sheathed as you demand that the refugees attend your authority as a Fatebinder of Tunon. Though the woman matches your gaze with steady resolve, the remainder of the quintet exchange nervous glances among themselves. Question them, escort them, or accept their oaths. Question them. Via a brief, largely uncontested interrogation, you learn that these 3 individuals are members of the old aristocracy of Sunder. They traveled to Stalwart after their homeland's destruction, but the Edict of Storms has driven them north again. Having lost very nearly everything short of their life, they've finally accepted the inevitability of Kairos' control of the Tiers and home to find a place within... control the Tiers. I think it's hope to find a place within the new order. So I could accept their oaths, but we will escort them. Parties receive Sunder's seal, placed in stash. You've gained favor with Stone Sea villagers and Lethian's Crossing. The group is hesitant to accept the terrifying honor of a personal escort of a Fatebinder, but they don't resist your insistence. You lead them to the bastard city, into the court of Tunon, Archon of Justice, who presides over the three nobles as they swear their loyalty and service to the empire of the Overlord. After a brief ceremony, one of the nobles approaches you and displays her appreciation in the form of a small gift. Exhaustion increasingly gains a penalty to recovery over time during combat. Alright, so better relations with Tunon, Lethian's Crossing, and the Stone Sea villagers. Interesting. Stone skin, +3 armor, stolen for 20 seconds, immunity to petrify. This white stone seal depicts a bridge over water with sharp rocks jutting from the waves and a flat-topped plateau looming above the bridge. These images represent Sunder, a harbor city once known for endless architectural marvels carved by its myriad masons from a white mesa overlooking the sea. The seal always feels slightly dirty and lends the skin of those who bear it a dry, weathered aspect. All right, so we've probably got quite a bit to go through. I'll just wait for the notes to finish here. I'm just going to read this from the start to the end again. It's a little tricky for me to keep all of these straight on a stream when I have more than one. Alright, dear Fatebinder Solon, your actions at Sentinel Stand have once again supplied the rumor mongers of the bastard city with stories to peddle. Some seem to think that your cunning twist of legalese intended to display some great support to the people of Stalwart. That, of course, only leads to speculation about which people of Stalwart you intended to benefit, the unbridled upstarts or the corrupt old queens. Others foolishly believe that you unraveled the Overlord's edict to prove that you could, as if a sliver of cleverness could bring Kairos low. As a scholar, I prefer primary sources to gossip, so allow me to ask you plainly, why did you choose to spare the child? Fatebinder Rogulus. Dear Fatebinder Rogulus, the blood of Graven Ash, Archon of War, flows through that child's veins. It should take no scholar of history or governance to recognize the potential in protecting it. The Archon appreciates family above all else. Why would I deprive him of a grandchild born of the ruling family of Stalwart if I could do so without shirking my duty to the Overlord? I do not make a habit of discarding the gifts of fortune. Fatebinder Solon. Dear Fatebinder Solon, I suspected that your cleverness did not end at the use of local customs of abdication. You make no mistake in your estimate of the child's probable import to the Archon of War. Its continued existence illuminates a gap in his armor, regardless of whether he cherishes the child or resents it. I would warn you to play such games carefully, but you seem to have your eye on the board. Fatebinder Rogulus. Dear Fatebinder Myothis, I write to you at the urging of my peer and tutor, Fatebinder Rogulus. He has found himself bereft of answers, a rare condition for him, and suggested he may be that you may be the only source of the answers I seek. If you will pardon the imposition, it would mean a great deal to learn what you know of Kairos' edicts and the magic of the spires. The mountain spire of the Tears has awoken to my presence, an event that occurred moments after I resolved an edict of Kairos. So it's critical that I learn just what happened to me and what it all means. I thank you in advance for your consideration and wisdom, Fatebinder Solon. Solon, do you remember your training under Bledden Mark? I remember mine. Funny to think that you and I are about a century apart, but to Bledden Mark we are all children. I'm now the oldest of the court's children, and I've seen much in my time. It's probably for the best that everyone assumes I'm old, harmless, and worth shuffling away in the archives. If I were scrutinized too closely, I'm sure Tunon would find I've grown lax in my spoiled old age. Part of why I am where I am is that I've kept my head down. You appear to be doing the opposite. In some regards, this is beyond your control. You were chosen for the honor of proclaiming Kairos' edicts twice. To decline would have meant death, but to accept means to be placed on a stage for all to see. Kairos' most powerful weapon is not the edict. It's her ability to hand us rope that we willingly use to hang ourselves. Never forget this. There are numerous questions nestled in your request. What is it you wish to know most? Focus your inquiry, and I will answer as best I can. Fatebinder Myothis. Inquire about edicts and their nature. Dear Myothis, thank you for hearing me out. I have more questions than I have ink, but let's start with a discussion of Kairos' edicts. I've lived under, proclaimed, and resolved edicts, which make me far more knowledgeable than the layperson on the subject, and yet I still know so little. All right. Dearest Fatebinder, champion of Tunon's Gavel, slayer of choirmen, we hope you recognize that we bear you no ill will. Who understands treachery if not the Archon of Secrets? We've always held the very highest esteem for the work of other specialists in the arts duplicitous. Make no mistake, dear Fatebinder, after your little performance at Vendrian's Well, and with such a flair for theatrical illumination, you have ascended in our estimate. We trust you will understand that as we peel the flesh from your bones and squeeze the bile from your quivering innards. It's strictly out of artistic integrity and the courtesy owed a fellow professional. Nothing personal at all. But enough about our friendly rivalry. Do you enjoy the company of our little spy? Her dance never fails to inspire in us the most pleasant quivers. We have a gift for her, delivered through you due to the girl's questionable faculty with letters. We've learned from one of our birds that a mercenary in Haven has been absolutely gloating about slaying her sisters. His boasts have even secured him work defending some crossing merchant. Show her the sigils on the reverse. She'll know what they mean. Voices of Narat, Archon of Secrets, and Master of Cacophony. The opposite page contains several rough ink-scratch symbols that look like nothing more than a child's pictographs of their favorite animals. Archon of Secrets, no doubt you intend your message to elicit violence and chaos. That's standard for you, however, so I'm left to wonder, what else do you hope to accomplish? Ah, Fatebinder, you wound us. Have we ever needed an incentive beyond violence and chaos? If we have an ulterior motive, it is merely to see what verse does with our gift. She's well practiced in both of these qualities, and we take incredible pleasure in observing her development. Set aside your paranoia and share in our delight, Solon. Okay, so I am tempted to show verse the sigils now, but let's focus on this. Now, I do at some point want to deal with the exhaustion, but if I can do that after we finish some work, that would be best. Cool air stirs your clothes as you step into the small workshop, despite the lit forge you see against the back wall. A dark-robed woman, stalks the center of the space, fingers dancing against her chin, eyebrows furrowed in thought. Sooty smears on her skin suggest she touches her face often. She spares you an initially dismissive glance, but follows it with a surprised double take. Oh, fuck me, the Fatebinder. I mean, what brings you to my humble atelier? Take it you know me. Does anybody not? Spires don't exactly light up like the sun every day. Who are you? You sought me out. I assumed you knew already. Or do you make a habit of walking into strangers' houses? I'm called Lycentia. I know my sigils, but I'm mostly a crafter. They keep me around for odd jobs, fixing tools, repairing armor, and generally trying to keep Halfgate from falling into the stone sea. Nice forge. Thanks. I made it myself. She chuckles. I'm particularly fond of the heat wards, not just on account of the comfort, keeps the place from going up in flames, barring anything unusual. Had the thought after... She frowns and drops into silence. After the Vellum Citadel? After the Vellum Citadel. Are you a sage? Is anyone anymore? Heard the school burned up. Surprised you took notice. Licentia here is a former sage? It's not that she ever officially left. It's more that she got tired of life in the Citadel and never came back. I studied among the sages once, years ago. Worked for the royalty of Azure for a while after that. Nice work until Cairn arrived. You going to prosecute me? She looks you over. Depends on how helpful you are. Then let me ask again. Why are you here? I have a forge of my own if you'd like to relocate. It's significantly larger and provides a much better view. Oh wow, Binder. First you compliment my forge, and then you turn around and tell me yours is bigger. You've got a real way with words. I'm happy where I am. Thanks. I need you to examine my friend Barrick. This one, I assume. He's pointy. Her gaze wanders around Barrick's assortment of sharp edges.
Mostly on top of his head.
Must you always be an ass, Verse?
As we said back in Ass Gang, once an ass, always an ass.
Damn it, Fatebinder, why can't you leave this be?
Leave what be? I hoped you might free Barrick of this bronze and iron prison.
Fatebinder, you know as well as I that Tunon forbade this. I cannot be complicit.
Oh, just what will you do? Sit on the floor and cross your arms like a child?
If I must. If that will make the Fatebinder see reason.
I promise you that this will be for the best, friend. Let me deal with the legal ramifications.
I have little confidence that Tunon will see it the same way, or that you will be able to shield me from his wrath.
I assume that you want to come out with all your bits regardless, right? Then hold still and quiet down. Before anything else, I need to ask you a few questions. What manner of questions? Ask away. I won't ask anything political or tactical, only matters personal. Hardly reassuring. First, have you ever engaged in sexual congress? What? I don't... How can that... that can't be relevant, Barrick sputters. He doesn't understand the first thing about mystic sympathy, does he? The smith frowns and looks to you. It's important, Barrick, particularly in the case of a possible convergence of arcane energies to rule out resonant adulteration. I suppose that sounds reasonable. The armor has prevented anything from happening recently, regardless of whether or not I wanted it to. Before that, well, the Legion is... I spent it... People I cared for deeply were not the pride of the North, strong and beautiful. He creaks quietly. I get it, Barrick. Sparring is like dancing. Gets pretty hot. Do not compare the virtuous combat rituals of the disfavored to your scarlet rutting. And that's all I shall speak of it. I never pass the time with a mage, or archon, oath-bound, beast-woman, or anything else unusual. Nothing unusual. I've always heard that there's a special bond between a disfavored officer and their subordinates. Hey, Elgrins. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good night, too. Is there anything you are unwilling to soil with your perversion, witch? You wore forge-bound armor during the conquest, correct? The smith nods. And prior to it. Was it sigil woven, enchanted against harm? I do not believe so. It was iron. Have you had sigils of any kind branded into your skin? I bear the mark of the disfavored and nothing else. The mark of the disfavored? The general sigil, or rather what of it the Overlord's decree allows, Many members of the Legion scar themselves with it, binding their loyalty into their flesh and blood. It marks us family. I've heard it said that Graven Ash protects. The sages had no direct knowledge of the Archon of War's abilities, but there were many, many theories. I don't suppose you can provide any concrete information. You ask me to reveal the great general's secrets to a mage. That's too much. Archon Ash shares a strong connection with his soldiers. It allows him to take on some of their harm while also sharing in their experiences. Fatebinder! His gasp contains anger and disbelief in equal measure. And you do not need repairs or maintenance on the armor, I presume. Aside from oiling it and filing down the pointer bits? No. Wait, how did you know that? Metal grinds quietly. The smith stares at Barrick in thoughtful silence before retrieving from the forge a long bar of iron, its end glowing red from the heat. She holds it out to you. Take it. Next, you'll want to stick that into him, through his armor. It's going to hurt regardless, but I suspect quicker would be better. She leans towards you, lowering her voice. Stab Barrick. Howling in agony, Barrick staggers backwards, grasping at his side. The smell of burnt flesh hits your nostrils a moment later. Reaching down, Licentia grabs the iron rod and tugs it from Barrick's side, eliciting another scream of pain. She takes a step back as his gauntlet swings out in a wild attempt to backhand her. Fucking shit on an ill-starred beast of a mother of asses! What in the great general's name, woman? Was that necessary? No. It'll be okay, Barrick. You've faced worse. A hiss issues forth from within his helmet. I suppose that's true, though usually with a bit more warning. He twists his torso in an attempt to get a look at the wound. Amazing. Smith holds up the sizzling metal prod, drawing a sigil in the air with her free hand. Examine the wound. You bend close to the wound, but Barrick's hand is clamped over the hole in his side, obscuring your view. I need to see the injury, Barrick. With slow reluctance, Barrick moves his gauntleted hand from the hole in his side. You peer through the hole in the oxidized bronze and iron shell, willing yourself to ignore the mixing smells of cooked meat. Yikes! M-E-A-T, and fetid human waste. You see the ragged, oozing flesh beneath, a gasping red cavity pulsing in time with Barrick's labored breath. Even as you watch, the wound seems to close, bronze-colored skin knitting together at the edges, like a slowly closing mouth. It's not merely the skin, however. Barrick's armor cage slowly shifts and flows, incrementally reducing the aperture. Are you seeing this too? His armor seems to be healing, just like his flesh. Exactly. And the edges. If she's making any attempt to hide her excitement, she's failing spectacularly. Your armor and flesh heal as one. Is that a standard property among the disfavored? She straightens, peering into Barrick's mismatched eyes. Not to my knowledge. If he and the armor heal as one, they're likely mystically bound together. Indeed, Tuner likes them smart. I take it. The question remains, though, why does this happen? She smiles appreciatively at you. I have a working theory, but what I can't make out is what differentiates you from the other disfavored who served in the Blade Grave. Maybe it's some trick of the blood. Maybe it's your connection to the Fatebinder. Maybe something else. But I barely knew the Fatebinder prior to Vendrian's Well. There's a lot we don't understand about how the world works. Kairos' strictures against literacy and inquiry don't exactly help. She glances at you. Choose your words carefully, Smith. Apologies, Fatebinder. She blanches, swallowing. Before I can suggest a solution, I'll need a sample of alloyed iron and bronze from the site of your entrapment. About this much should do. She holds her open palms about 6 inches apart. We'll get you the sample. Then I await your return. She turns from you, peering thoughtfully into her slack tub and iron rod within. So, this is a turn... this is definitely a turn that I quite like in this story. So, you know, there's a few different ways that you can kind of pull this this particular example from different stories. But again, like it doesn't have to be completely novel for it to be, you know, a good trick. But I always enjoy, and particularly in RPGs like this, a point where you will have a piece of information that's presented in the game, early in the game, and you have, you know, some assumption as to why that is. So in this case here, you have Tunon declaring that nobody should try and remove the armor from Barrack. And, you know, it would be completely reasonable for someone to assume that Tunon's doing this because he is a very harsh judge and, you know, has this sort of zealot's, although zealot may not be the best, maybe isn't the best term for Tunon, but essentially is so beholden to Kairos's laws and is utterly indifferent to someone's well-being that, you know, it just seems like an unduly harsh, you know, it's not really a sentence on Barrack so much as it is just kind of condemning him to a particularly uncomfortable and unpleasant existence. And it is worth remembering that Barrack does ask you to try and have the armor removed. The reason why he resists that now is because Tunon has, you know, made the decree. But with this revelation, that effectively the armor and the flesh are one, sort of shows you the wisdom of Tunon. And of course, what's nice about this is you've made a choice. You've actually gone against Tunon in this context. There may be other ones where you do so in more lawful ways, but the fact of the matter is you're learning about this through sort of breaking the rule. And, you know, again, I tend to like it in stories where, you know, it's not necessarily that you were misled, but because you only had partial information and because you made certain assumptions about the characters involved, some later revelation gives you a more complete, and in the most satisfying cases, of course, are the more satisfying ones, the ones that give you a more complete understanding, and a character goes from feeling like sort of a one-dimensional villain to someone with a greater understanding. Like almost that point where you're like, I really messed up by going against this ruling. So this is definitely, I know it's a side quest, but actually I like this turn quite a bit. In stark contrast to the tools of the Overlord's forge-bound smiths, this equipment bears the marks of heavy use and inconstant maintenance. The mixed flavors of oil and sulfur cling to the back of your mouth. Okay. A much-abused earthenware jug dominates this small table, the only flat surface in this room not apparently dedicated to the smith's craft. An acerbic odor of strong, stale wine lurks in the air around it.
I got it.
So I'm trying to get past the exhaustion, but the edict ended. There is bound to be countless discoveries of lost knowledge that have been buried underneath the ruts. It's Status of your research. I'm happy to say we made great progress. He beams at you and exhales a welcome breath. Allow me to show you my findings. Tidal waves of rock and rust have clearly spread their destruction across the region. The old walls extend from the ruined lands out to the southern sea. So I should be reading this, so... Yes, this will do nicely. A sage peruses the library stacks, rubbing her palms together with expectation. Her eyes shoot open with panic as she utters a quick incantation. Your vision blurs, and suddenly there appear to be several copies of the sage standing about, looking at you with anxious expressions. Some stand ready to fire off an additional spell, while others fiddle awkwardly with their garments. "What are you doing here?" they all yell at once. "Fatebinder Solon, at your service." "Oh, I'm afraid I only know you by description, and they didn't exactly get it right. A moment's patience." The assembled sages regard one of the identical speakers with expressions of doubt and worry. The sage waves her hand and dispels the copies, which spread apart like mist until a breeze carries them away. "That's better. You'll have to forgive me. It's an old defense mechanism I learned against the leechers who ran the Vellum Citadel." "I'm available if you need some practice, Fatebinder." So yeah, in these cases, I'm really just trying to talk to people who might sort of give interesting things. The Earthshaker squints to make you out. "Ah, Fatebinder, you couldn't have picked a better spire to claim. I'm sure you're just brimming with questions." "The fact that we stand upon one of the great and ancient mysteries of the world, sharing this pleasant conversation, means that you are a person of influence and power, and I want to make sure that your talents are harnessed appropriately. Shall we begin?" "Very well. Show me what you can do." Yeah. I do want to do the training, but I'm also conscious of the... I'm kind of conscious of the fact that I don't have that many rings right now. Hoo-hoo, hee-hee, ha-ha! The blood chanter laughs and canters about, dancing in a rhythmless, maniacal fashion. "Now, what is this?" "I've come to help you, dear one. The voices of Narat told me to go up, up, up to the spire and find the decorated Fatebinder of Tunon. Now here I am." She spreads her arms wide. "I am Puppet, and my master bade me to keep you entertained, sharp, and battle-ready. Would you like to try your hand at juggling fireballs, or shall we trade stories and cry ourselves to sleep?" She folds her hands into a pillow and rests her head. The sage examines a scroll, taking in every detail of his handiwork. "Did you know that there are 7 ways to write fire, but only 2 for water?" He continues to examine the scroll without the slightest sign that he was expecting an answer. Could it be that fire has more meaning in our era? There's a short pause before he realizes you've actually approached him for something. "Oh, my apologies, Fatebinder. I can be taken for a ride by my own trails of thought. I'm sure there is something you need from me?" "You seem fairly versed in the common language. Did you study at the Vellum Citadel?" Velos squints at you, as if to sniff out some hidden motive, but finds none. "You'll still call it by its old name. Most these days refer to it as the Burning Library, for the burning heap of shit." His posture visibly slouches. "Yes, I had many colleagues and mentors far more scholarly on the subject of Yes, I had many colleagues and mentors far more scholarly on the subject of the written word and its many forms than I could ever grasp." His gaze wanders past you, escaping off into some distant memory. "We lost many good scrolls when the edict fell." "What have you made for me?" I don't have anything for you at the moment. Check back later. Recruits can generate items for you while you are gaining experience by adventuring in the world. A mage peruses the library with an amused expression. It takes a while for her to notice you. Fatebinder? I was wondering when I would meet my patron. She bows. Philia of the Forgebound. Before you ask me what a smith is doing away from the forge, well, I'm taking a break from ironwork, and this library suits my tastes at present. What's the plan now that you're here? I need some time away from the war effort. Assembling the same swords and helmets, using our intellect and art to equip an army? She shivers. The Forgebound are masters of our craft, but we're artists at heart, and this war has misused our talents. I want to spend some time among these books, recalling what got me interested in the arcane in the first place. Teaching you should fulfill a similar goal, though I won't know for certain until we get started. Where shall we begin? Oh god, I really want to load up on the lore. Oh, got another level. All right. So I think I was moving past power at this point. Or I wanted to, potentially. So definitely don't want unarmed mastery. Don't want brawler. Don't attack from stealth. Okay, so you can see defense. You can definitely see leadership. But also bonus to a lore skill. You know what, I'm going to do leadership for the start. So party gains 2 additional quick item slots or abundant arms. Okay, so yeah, the more I use thrust, yeah, we're going to put points in leadership. Salutations, Solon. It is difficult to separate fact from superstition when it comes to edicts, as it seems only Kairos knows how it all works. The rest of us are left to live in fear and ponder it all. Kairos edicts are a sort of magic above and beyond even the Archons. I dare say the edicts are stronger than Kairos, as there's no evidence Kairos can willingly stop an edict once set into motion, which is, in part, why Kairos' edicts seem to have an until or unless cause in their wording. I know the edict, as powerful as it is, requires a human voice to complete the casting. Thus the Overlord has people like you proclaim edicts cast far from the Imperial throne. The magic is Kairos magic, but the human voice is the final carrier or trigger to complete the magic phenomenon. And here's what's most fascinating, at least as far as you're concerned. There have been dozens of mortal agents who have been made to proclaim edicts. 2/3 of them die within a decade, and many gave reports of lingering mystic scars from the ordeal. There have also been a handful to resolve or break an edict. These until and unless clauses get fulfilled from time to time, and we see a similar pattern in history. Those who resolve an edict often live short lives, and many speak of arcane side effects of the shattered edicts. Here's where you're unique. To the best of my fact-finding, you are the first to proclaim and break the exact same edict. Whatever mystical power is involved in the creation and destruction of such magics, you're the first to stand at the terminus of both. Now that I know the spires can be awoken, it makes sense that if anything can or would wake them from slumber, a shattered edict seems the likely culprit. Kairos has other edicts in place throughout the tiers. If you truly wish to learn more, perhaps you would take it upon yourself to shatter those edicts. After all, if Kairos did not wish for the edicts to be broken, why include a termination clause? Dear Myothis, it seems wise to know one's own domain, and seeing as I am now the master of the mountain spire, I ought to learn all that I can. If you would share with me what you know of the spires, I would be in your debt. I'll start with what I know and have observed so far. The mountain spires seemed to awaken at about the same instant that Kairos' edict of execution was put to rest. There was a burst of arcane energy that drowned out my senses, and I awoke at the summit of the spire in what seemed to be just a few heartbeats of time. Atop the spire is an old sculpture of sorts, and it seems to be the core of the spire's mystic energy. I've been seeing visions and receiving sensations from the sculpture. It seems odd to describe it as talking to me, but that seems the closest analogy. Am I the first to report such things? There are other spires elsewhere in the world, correct? Okay, so one thing I want to work out about the spires here. Okay, trainer. Basically, I just want to get whatever goodies I can. Your influence spans even further, and you can almost hear the whispers of 1,000 voices echoing through the resonator. If you concentrate, it would appear that you can begin the same trance that showed you glimpses of the previous spire. Touch the resonator and concentrate. Once more you touch the sculpture, and once more your mind is flooded with sensation. This time, your senses leaving your body and floating up, higher even than the mountain spire, until all of Terratus is beneath your feet. From high above, you see the mystic currents moving about Terratus, billowing clouds of every color that churn about the realms. Even from this faraway vantage point, cyclones and currents of magic fill you with dread and foreboding. Send your senses towards the mystic currents. As you near the mystic currents, you hear inchoate voices, commands, proclamations, the stuff of edicts. All across Terratus, the edicts of Kairos, some centuries old, still live on, their arcane signatures bright as the midday sun, seemingly stronger than the day they were proclaimed. As your senses float away from the arcane turbulence, you are struck by the fact that the land untouched by edicts appears to be in the minority. Even lands long ago conquered by Kairos are still haunted by edicts, whether because they still linger from the olden days of conquest, or if they were cast more recently to suppress rebellion. Your senses cannot glean. Oh, darn it. Okay, didn't mean to do that. Well, if it ain't the big bad boss come to take a look at my wares, hand-picked from the finest battlefield corpses, I can assure you. The Scarlet Chorus member's milky dead eyes roll in their sockets as he bows deeply, mocking you. What'll it be, boss? Let's see what's in stock. I'm not paying all that. Piss off. Oh, it's you, Fatebinder. I'm so glad to witness your safe return. I swear it. What'll it be, boss? I'd like to talk. Sure, boss. You talk, I'll pretend to listen. I prefer one-sided conversations with figures of authority. Makes it real easy for me. Corpse Eye. Not really a name you come across every day. Unusual? Yeah. His eyes, cloudy and scarred, bob unfocused in their sockets, and he grins at you, revealing several cracked or missing teeth. Fitting? You tell me. You can't shake the eerie sense that, despite appearances, Corpse Eye is in fact able to see. After all, didn't you recently witness him fighting on the battlefield? Regardless, he doesn't seem to find his condition at all distressing. How'd you end up in the Scarlet Chorus? How does anyone, if not through piss-poor luck? Know what happens when the chorus come a-calling at your door and you don't open it? Worse than this, he warns, waving 2 fingers over his eyes. But I figure I've made my way of things, working for a Fatebinder now. What finer honor could there be, right? He laughs, chokes, and hawks a gob of spit at your feet. What do you think of the voices of Narat? If I were a betting man, which I am now thanks to the chorus, I'd put my rings on Narat, and any churl with 2 wits about him would do the same. The Scarlet Chorus member shrugs. I don't fear many things no more, but he's sure one. I'm not afraid of Narat. No fear, and real bright too. You ought to let the voices hear you say that. Then it'll be a real show. Please understand, Master Fatebinder, if wrong ears were to hear these whispers, I could lose my tongue. I trust you'll be discreet with my information. What tippets and rumors do you have for me? Armies need weapons, but it turns out they need meat more. She watches you keenly as you approach. A primal hunger glides like a shadow behind her amber eyes. Do you have anything for me? Yes, yes. We'll show, human. That is a lot of stuff. Yes, you want something from me? He folds his arms impatiently. Have you made anything lately? Sure did. Come right here and I'll show you. A burly smith draws his arm across his brow and nods to you. Kenrick, smelter. Not quite a master, but, you know, getting there. Never worked this high up before. He shrugs. First time for everything. Let's put you to work making some weapons, shall we? Let me show you what I have already. Okay. I'm gonna rest. Would you like to rest for 8 hours? Yes. That was just to get rid of the exhaustion, but we should also get a bonus for resting at the spire. Take you 1 day, 7 hours, 30 minutes to complete your journey from the mountain spire at Vendrian's Well to the Sentinel Stand outskirts. Encounter in the Blade Grave. An uneventful day on the road is interrupted by a loud cry. An old man, dirt-encrusted and wild-eyed, dressed in little more than tattered rags, emerges from the brush, charging feebly towards you with sword held high. For Apex! His sandals catch a tree root, sending him tumbling into the dirt. His brittle blade strikes the ground first, snapping in 2. He clutches his ribs and whispers a low groan, lying on the ground for an uncomfortably long time. His moans give way to rhythmic, heavy breathing, and just as you step forward to determine if the old man has fallen asleep, he picks himself up, wagging the useless blade at you. The day is ours, dogs of Kairos! The man continues to ramble, and it soon becomes clear that he believes himself late for the first battle of Apex. He is correct in a sense. The battle was waged over 2 years ago. Blissfully unaware of his kinsman's failure, he demands your surrender before generously offering to settle for a mere ransom. Kill him, convince him you're not the enemy, and give him some rings. Disarm him and spare his life, and convince him to wage war against Narat. As funny as that would be. Disarm him and spare his life. As he continues to shout, you calmly reach out and grab the crossguard of his sword, sliding the weapon out of his loose grip without the old man even noticing. He stops yelling for a moment to catch his breath, only then noticing he has been disarmed. He clutches its rags, hands darting from one pocket to another, as if the weapon has been mistakenly stowed in one of them. His right arm clutches something solid, and with a defiant laugh, he brandishes a half-eaten drumstick. Tired of this distraction, you brush past the man and continue down the path. He swings wildly with the drumstick as you passed, incensed by your defiance. It bounces off your shoulder, strips of meat flying off it, and lands unceremoniously in the mud. You ignore his cries and continue on, content to let the old man tire himself out. Eventually the shouts cease. In its place, you hear the sounds of a confused man ravenously devouring the last morsels of his chicken. Greetings, Solon. You are correct. There are spires all across Terratus. The exact distribution of these monuments fuels all sorts of debate and speculation, but two facts seem commonplace. Most spires are built near old walls. Your mountain spire is a notable exception, and nearly every culture that predated Kairos has some local myth to explain the builders of these spires. I believe the Tiersmen cite the Older Realms as their local name for the Spire Old Walls architects, but nobody knows for sure. And of course, where Kairos has brought proper civilization, the origin of the spires simply isn't discussed in good company. Here's what I think you need to know. First, the spires behave as an arcane lodestone. There is a constant field of magical strength around a spire. If you imagine a mystic sea resting atop our world, the spires seem to spin and churn this magic, creating a spell cast with even modest effort will materialize with powerful results. Second, and I'd say most tellingly, Kairos has laws against entering the old walls, but there are no laws against the spires. You could infer from this that means Kairos has no issue with the lay folks messing with the spires, but wishes us to keep us safe from the old walls. Or you could think like an overlord and know that if you place a rule against something, you make it forbidden and desirable. Now I find it telling that Kairos forbids the hallways that leads to the spires, but does not paint a target on the spires themselves. Last but not least, as a young fatebinder, I once had to oversee the case of a man who had built a shrine to Kairos around the base of a spire in the far southeast. I could find no evidence of falsity or slander. His shrine was a most reverent and loving tribute as I've ever seen. At one point, though, this man claimed he had evidence that Kairos was here back in -50. He had merely uttered those words, and my senior binder swung the axe then and there. Being the new girl at the court, I said nothing, but I have long wondered why such a comment should require death instead of the traditional removal of the tongue. Fatebinder Myothis. Solicit her advice. Dear Myothis, I appreciate the information. Thank you for sharing. Knowing what you know of my situation, what would you do? Locate a sample of fused iron and bronze. You have arrived at Sentinel Stand outskirts. Locate a sample of fused iron and bronze from the site of Barrack's exposure to the Edict of Storms. The blistering winds of the Edict of Storms rounded the stones of these walls, dusting them in iron and bronze, yet they persist. So we'll definitely head there in a little bit, but I want to pick up whatever goodies I can. I should be a little more quick to sell the excess in these cases because I've already distributed all the weapons and armor among the different characters in the party. So at this point, anything surplus should be... Oh, hello. Excuse me. Crimson flashes among the torn terrain of the Blade Grave as a gang emerges from the landscape around you. They're hardened men and women with well-weathered skin and narrowed eyes, their piecemeal leather armor graced with notes of bronze. Careless Spark. Fatebinder, so nice of you to finally show up. A woman steps forward, grinning at you with small, uneven teeth and wrapped tightly in the fur and leathers of a blood chanter. A tangled mass of sooty, wind-blown hair drapes her shoulders, and her large eyes scrutinize you hungrily. Beautiful scenery, no? Truly displays the indiscriminate artistry of our overlord. Glare silently. Do I have blood on my face again? She wipes at her cheek, smearing soot. Am I supposed to know who you are? That's Careless Spark. Good people. I mean, as good as the chorus comes. Verse keeps her voice low, speaking for you alone. Ahoy there, Verse! It's been a while. Telling the Fatebinder about that time we found that commune out Halfgate Way, trussed up those farm boys, and... No! Also, shut up. Sounds like there's a story there. Maybe I'll tell you once we're good friends. Go ahead, Spark. We'll see how many wags your tongue manages before I've torn it out and cauterized the stump. Enough of this insipid prattle. I'd heard you'd run hot under all that cold metal. Seems I heard true. How did you know I'd be here? Think we don't keep tabs on Halfgate? It's on Cacophony's doorstep. Get on with it and tell me what you want. I don't expect you're willing to sell the Ironclad's services to us. The Archon of Secrets would be wildly, ridiculously grateful to have a personal audience with him. What does the Archon of Secrets want with Barrack? Your heavy metal friend survived an edict and came out stronger for it. You think the Voices wouldn't be a mite bit curious? The Voices of Narat knows I'm allied with Graven Ash. He sent you on a fool's errand. Suppose it would be too much to ask that Graven Ash recruit someone with something besides iron between their ears. She nods to the other choirman. I thought it might come to this in the end. Let's see if you live up to your legend. She sighs and hefts her staff as her gang moves to attack. Okay, so I'm definitely going to need to divide the attention of the group. I don't think I'm ready to cast the various spells. I think I want to get people in position first. The next thing I want to do, though, so we've got Careless Spark and Bloodhound. So I'm going to get Barrack to sort of run up in the front. Verse I can at least get doing a ranged attack. And I'm going to let the Fatebinder...
Consider it done.
Okay, so first thing I need to do is get Barrack to hold the attention. Okay, apparently none of the taunts worked. Good God. Oh, I see the problem here. Okay. Oh wow, they okay.
I know this.
Not great, but looks like Solon got the last laugh. Okay, Lantry goes back. Actually, no, yeah, so Solon needs to do this. Lantry needs to get out.
I'll take care of it.
Okay, I really wish they'd just do what they're told.
You got it.
So Lantry's the worst off in terms of health right now. We'll make sure that Barrett gets his sort of lease on life. I think what I'll do here, the Fatebinder will spread some of the love.
Right.
I'll do it for the North.
I think Lantry's gonna have to stop.
You got it.
Let's see if I can get the...
At once.
Okay, not great. And Verse is looking pretty worse for wear.
Holy shit! This weapon isn't. At once.
Okay, promising. But Verse is almost toast.
As you command.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I will aid you.
Got it.
As you
Dark all
command.
of a sudden.
As you command. Harsh. Worse would cause more harm than this useless weapon.
I'll do it for the North.
Another gang of crimson corpses made trespassers upon the Blade Grave. Let us claim what brought us here, he sighs.
Will this do? It is nigh the size of a kite shield. You have your rock. Let us leave this place.
Something bothering you, Barrack?
I have repeatedly asked you to leave this be, yet you persist. Do you think that you act in my interest? Do you think you know better than I where my interest lies?
Apparently I do.
You are mistaken, Fatebinder. I ask you again to leave this be, to throw that hunk of metal away and never think of it further. There was no ambiguity in the Archon of Justice's ruling.
More ambiguity than you might think. The flexibility of the law is in the details.
I may never understand you clerks of the court, saying one thing and plotting another, all in the name of justice.
Peering at the ground for several seconds, Barrack says nothing and then turns his attention back to you.
This place haunts me, Fatebinder. These walls, these lands, they were hard once, but they possessed an austere beauty. The general saw them for what they were. Lands well worth fighting for. The winds that day, they swept everything aside. They tumbled tearsmen and livestock like children's playthings. The dust choked our mouths and eyes. Trees appeared as if by magic, only to be smashed into splinters against stones. And those splinters cut like knives. We were no fools. We knew what had fallen upon us, and we took cover as best our iron shields and the general's protection allowed. Yet the wind tore us away, one by one. Some silent, some screaming. Now only I remain. In this state.
His gauntlet rings against his breast, cutting off any possible response.
Take the metal to your smith, or do not. There's nothing further to be said. Let us leave.
In the early days of the Edict of Storms, colossal twisting columns of wind sometimes descended from the clouds to scar the land. One such vortex touched down here, remaining long enough to twist the stone into tall, vicious spines.
I got it.
Okay, so at this point, I think I need to do a little bit of an examination of the inventory. Okay. I think it's probably just going to be a question of armor, but let's double check. So I can't see if the Fatebinder... I mean, this is tempting, right? Compared to the scavenger leather armor, it does have some improvements, just not against crush. Again, it's the it's the recovery that really kills this stuff. This works though. Okay, well, wasn't a complete waste of time. With the sample in hand, return to your smith to learn what she can uncover. So I'm most tempted to go back to one of the spires. We can go back to the secluded forge for now. Dear Solon, based on what you've told me, it seems a stretch to believe that these events are mere coincidence or circumstance. Cairo's edict of execution was a setup for someone to claim Ascension Hall. To think that Kairos did not know what would happen is a massive underestimation of the Overlord's long view. You have been thrust into the area of the mighty. Your options are retreat into obscurity, suicide, or rising to the occasion. I suggest the third option. If I were you, I would use my connection to the spires to see if they will awaken to my presence. If they will all awaken to my presence. Every tearsman sees the spires in the horizon. If they know you are the master of the spires, they will see you each time they look to the sunrise or sunset. Foster a reputation for power. Make others fear you. This is what I've seen Kairos and every living Archon do for as long as I've lived, and there's reasons for this. There's the practical case that power and a reputation insulate you from threats. But there's the lesser-known element that I can't prove, but I know in my heart to be true. The fear and love of others will strengthen your magic. The last part I've inferred from my discussions with Bledan Mark. In the few times he has spoken of his gruesome work of slaying those who might rise to threaten the Overlord, he has hinted that it's easier to kill the rogue elements before they become famed and fearsome. In my lifetime, I saw Graven Ash change from an unknown militiaman to a fearsome general, and I can assure you he did not have the power to shield his warriors in those days when he was without title or reputation. The Archons will never, ever discuss the origin of their power, because such knowledge might be used against them. But I have known all the Archons to be obsessed with the presentation of power. Your connection to the spires will all but guarantee the Archons will want to control and destroy you. It's a question of when, not if. Start thinking and acting like an Archon. As far as I'm concerned, you are an Archon. The Archon of the spires. We are quick to place labels on powers we easily spot, and history is replete with Archons of fire and ice. It is foolish to think that there must be a word for the thing before an Archon can control it. Other way around. The Archons show us what is possible, and we must step to their dance. Inquire about Bledan Mark's killings. Dear Myothus, your wisdom on the matter is greatly appreciated. You made mention of Bledan Mark and his killings. During my training, Fatebinder Kallio hinted that much of Bledan Mark's work involved killing off threats before they blossom into genuine problems, so it's curious to hear you second that fact. So, let's say for the sake of argument, I am some Archon. Is it just a matter of time until Blood and Mark is sent to kill me? Should I be making grand displays of loyalty to the court to assuage his suspicions? You're back. Did you secure the alloy? Give it here. She opens her palm and regards you with an enthused grin. What do you plan on doing with it? First I'll poke, prod, and otherwise examine it. What comes after, that depends on what I find after the poking and prodding. Here. Oh, fantastic! She accepts the alloy and placed it on her anvil. Mumbling, she traces her fingers in the air, forming a series of sigils. With rapt attention, Barrick watches the smith move about the sample, examining it from several angles. He says nothing, though when the faceplate of his helm shifts towards you, there's accusation in his eyes. A few other thoughtful sounds follow as she continues her examination. A reeling cantrip and some aimless grunting? Oh, come on, I could have managed this. This will do. This will most certainly do. She straightens, nodding vigorously. Licentia brings her hands together again in a single sharp clap. It's going to take me a little time to work out the rock's properties, but this is a promising start. I assume that you'll be stabbing it with the hot iron rod as well? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. Of course not. His armor grinds against itself with a growl. Pull up a stool or a crate and make yourselves at home. This shouldn't take too long. A few hours pass as Licentia bombards the sample from the blade grave with a combination of hammering and spell work. She heats it, submerges it in water, shapes it, wreathes it in lightning, and causes it to levitate in the air. Eventually she pauses, studying the metal and tapping her chin. Say nothing. Is that it, then? Have you completed whatever it is you're doing? Barrick clears his throat. Hello, Takri. How are you doing tonight? I was actually going to take a small break in a little bit, but we can go a little bit further, and then we'll see how I feel. I still have some coffee left, but I should probably have some water before too long. Apologies. I'd kind of forgotten about you. The alloy absorbs and retains mystical energy, specifically in the form of magical effects. She grins. In theory, a weapon crafted of it could retain its enchantment for decades at least, maybe longer. What does that mean for Barrick? It means your curiosity is sated. It means we can continue our true mission and forget this heretical quest. You live your entire life in service to Graven Ash and the Overlord. The added burden of this armor is ridiculous. As it should be. I don't suffer this armor because it is just. I suffer it because it is Kairos' will, and I am Kairos' servant, as you often claimed to be. Unfortunately, separating Barrick from his armor may not be as easy as one imagines. Perhaps if I'd gotten to him immediately after the edict. As it is, Barrick is alloyed with his armor as the iron is with the bronze. She gestures towards the sample. Simply put, Ash's ability to shield his soldiers has spread to the armor, likely due to the edict's power. Each wound taken by a soldier and armor are one, and they heal as one. With flesh and metal fusing together, she intertwines her fingers. So long as Barrick remains under the Archon of War's power, he remains in the armor. The longer he remains in his armor, the more it will become an intractable part of him. Can we remove the Aegis? Short of the death of Graven Ash or him rescinding his patronage over Barrick, I see no way to free Barrick from the Archon's power.
Neither is an acceptable solution. This shell, onerous though it may be, protects me and serves you. Without the great general or the disfavored, I have no purpose.
Oh, come on, you big crybaby. I'm sure there's a siege engine somewhere and needs a counterweight.
Thank you, Licentia. Please keep searching for a better way. My pleasure, Fatebinder. If I uncover anything of value, I'll dispatch a bird immediately.
I was better off not knowing, Fatebinder.
Well, now you know.
That the Archon's protection, the very thing to which I owe my life, keeps me imprisoned in this shell.
He shakes his head violently, throwing sparks where his helm meets his cuirass.
Ignorance of how deeply cursed I am was the only blessing remaining me.
Sorry, Barrick. I'll keep seeking an alternative way to set you free.
I appreciate the sentiment, Fatebinder, but truly, pursuing this further is folly. Truly, Fatebinder, while we may not always agree, I consider you more than a comrade in arms, which is why I hope you abandon this foolish obsession with removing my armor. No choice exists here. This armor remains my cage, as Kairos willed. I can accept that. I hope that you can too.
Interesting. So I am very curious if there's alternative paths down this, but I don't know. I'm sure you saw a little bit of this, Kree, but one of the interesting revelations out of this was that basically, I mean, I think you maybe got some of it from the text, but there's a bit where you poke Barrick basically with a hot poker sort of through a gap in the armor. And Graven Ash's ability to sort of heal his troops is apparent, but in addition to Barrick's flesh being repaired, you see the armor repair itself. And so the idea is that Barrick is more than just a guy trapped in a suit of armor. He is bound with the armor. And one of the reasons why I really liked this is that when Tunon, like when first you ask Tunon about releasing Barrick from the armor, you know, he gives this declaration which seems really, really harsh. And, you know, because you've been with Barrick for a bit, and, you know, Tunon's set up as this maybe not antagonistic, but very, you know, very stern character. You kind of think it's a one note, you know, I'm the dispassionate judge who, I'm the dispassionate judge who, you know, only does the letter of the law, and so I don't care if this person's bound up in the armor forever. You know, this is Kairos's will. Whereas what this side quest indicates is that Tunon is simply better informed than you, that it is in fact quite necessary that Barrick be with the armor, because the alternative, I'm assuming, is either killing Barrick or, as presented in the quest, you know, separating him from the disfavored, or essentially something equally unappealing to him. So I always tend to like these revelations. This is probably why I like some of the Weather Factory stuff. The idea of, you know, assuming, not without reason, that you have sort of a one-note character, and maybe this is because you've seen a lot of characters like this, or because you've seen, you know, you just, you know, are making an assumption with the information that you have, only to reveal that the world is wider and more interesting, and that maybe, you know, the people who you'd made assumptions about actually have more depth than you'd originally considered. I always tend to like those kinds of revelations, right? You don't necessarily feel like the rug has been pulled out from under you so much as you're just getting a wider perspective. In this case, I thought this was a really interesting instance, particularly because, right, the game is sort of at this point, I don't know the earliest where you can follow through on this quest, but, you know, the game for a while has been sort of nudging you, and it's like, you're special, you've got these abilities, you know, you're shaking things up, you're important, and these kinds of side quests and these kinds of revelations are really good at reminding you that there are, you know, there's greater complexity in the world that you aren't even necessarily considering, and that there are characters that are able to navigate these complexities and sort of rule on them almost reflexively, where you aren't even necessarily noticing what's going on. And I kind of like that. I think this is probably the sort of thing that people would normally call world building in a certain way, but I like it more as an idea of just sort of, well, like it's. I always kind of like thinking of the example of John Wick, also because it's an example of where I think it goes wrong. Like, John Wick has always been at its most interesting with the implied relationships and bigger world going on in the background. And I've always felt that as the sequels kept coming out, the world became just a little bit less interesting because whatever they showed didn't quite have the same mystique and interest as as what I kind of imagined in those first movies. So, like, to give you, it seems like a silly example, and maybe this is true as well because I haven't seen beyond, I think, the third one, but I'd always wondered, maybe not. I don't want to suggest that I thought this very strongly, but I always kind of had some like slim probability that there was always kind of this occult implication in the John Wick universe, like the secret coins and things like that, that it wasn't necessarily obvious, but that there was maybe, forces greater than you can comprehend just lying underneath that. And again, there's other explanations for it. There's other ways of it working, but I'd sort of wondered if maybe that was where it was going. And it seems to be more that it's really just, a bunch of different criminal organizations in various forms of competition with each other, which can still be interesting in its own way, right? Like, not everything has to be a cult to be interesting. But that's the thing. Like, there was always, I think the thing that made that really effective for me was that there's a few different ways, like where this stuff kind of becomes interesting and where I think the appeal lies for people is, that idea of sort of getting a glimpse on a hidden world, not necessarily knowing what's at stake or at play. And that sort of almost that slight implied sense of danger, right? But the important thing here is that this is the same sort of danger you get from, going to the movies or a roller coaster. Like, it's not that there is, if you have somebody running down a narrow hallway wielding a knife, there's none of that like fun that you get from the safety scares, let's say. And so one of the reasons why I mentioned the occult here is that the occult does sort of have that that appeal, right? I think that's why things like tarot cards or some types of shows about magic or secret societies and things like that, I think there's sort of that appeal there because it's just skirting the edge of sort of malevolent forces without necessarily doing the full-on deal with the devil, losing your soul, etc., etc. And I think the reason why I felt there was that degree of sort of occult, or maybe not degree, but that potential for an occult element was the number of times that they referred to John Wick as the Baba Yaga. And, they're pretty clear in the movie that they're using that interchangeably with the boogeyman. But the thing is that Baba Yaga is quite an interesting figure, right? She lives in the hut with chicken feet and, eats children. And, there's definitely some depth to that character and the implications behind that. And like, there's lots of different, sure, he can be the modern Kaiser Soze, in the John Wick universe. Hello, Vesper. Right. He can be the boogeyman. He can be the story that criminals tell their kids. But when you choose a witch, there are other implications there. And again, like, I'm not mad that, I mean, I think probably because I play the Weather Factory stuff, I think people might maybe assume that I just want everything to have an occult element, and that's definitely not the case. But again, when you think of the first film and the fact that I can watch that, and there's that side of me that says, you know, it's probably like much less than 50%, maybe it's like a 20% chance that there's actually going to turn out to be some occult element to this. But the world of possibilities in the hidden world implied by John Wick, of which you're only given a small glimpse, includes that possibility. And as the series goes on, and that, you know, the frontier of what this could be starts to contract a little bit, there's a bit of disappointment behind it. And so one of the things that I become quite conscious about when I'm, you know, playing a game like this or engaging with a story like this, even if I don't necessarily have any aspirations to make a CRPG, like, let's face it, that's a tall order. And I hear Weather Factory might be working on one, so there's already going to be a better one coming out in a couple years anyway. Yeah, and the other thing is, like, CRPGs are somewhat notorious for being the thing that a lot of first-time game developers seem to want to make, and also being, like, one of the hardest possible things to make. But, you know, even as somebody who just enjoys these kinds of games and stories and wants to understand how all this stuff works, I do think it's interesting to take moments from games and films and, you know, basically all sorts of entertainment, and to see what are the elements that give me a feeling that the possibilities are greater, the frontier has been pushed out, that maybe the world is bigger than I'd first assumed. And again, when I say the world is bigger than I first assumed, that can also mean sort of those inner journeys that, you know, Tunon has revealed layers that maybe I didn't appreciate before. What are the things that make me feel like there's a bigger, more interesting world than I perceived before? Those are big thumbs up, and particularly if they're things that are relatively easy to implement, right? Because this was done largely through dialogue. And then if I think about those cases where it feels like the frontier contracts, and again, I'm not going to say that the John Wick movies aren't good. They're very good. They're really interesting. But I can definitely say that my feelings and impressions of that world changed, and not necessarily towards expansion. And what's telling about that, of course, is that once upon a time, John Wick was a promising property, but it was still just one movie. And it was a very successful movie, and so they made subsequent ones. And those subsequent ones had, you know, a greater budget, probably a bit more creative freedom for the team behind it. But despite those advantages, actually, you know what? This should be a matter of record. Let me just take a quick look here. So John Wick 2014, that's a film score. Budget 20 to 30 million, box office 86. John Wick 2, $40 million budget, 174 million box office. So not that much larger, but still, I mean, I'd like it if, you know, 10, let's be honest, right? 10 million extra dollars, that gets you stuff. Okay, from there, number 3, Parabellum, that's the last one I've seen. $75 million budget, 327 million box office. And then the fourth, $100 million, $447 million box office. So look, I mean, once you start you know, like, let's face it, these are movies that, you know, they're getting a good return, you know, over a quarter and almost $500 million in terms of a return. These people don't necessarily, you know, they need to prove anything to me. Sorry, just give me a second here. But despite the fact that, the third film has over twice the original budget, and then the fourth film, has hit the $100 million mark. And again, let's be clear, like 2023 compared to 2014. So obviously there's going to be a bit of inflation involved in that. But the main point that I was hoping to make was that all of those films had more. They were able to do more. They had more money, again, presumably more creative freedom. But despite having those advantages, they didn't necessarily, the world wasn't necessarily expanded in a way that I felt there was greater opportunity. Whereas in this case, Tyranny was able to create a greater sense of potential, or gave me more to consider in terms of the world, through something that probably wasn't the most costly part of the game. It's not like it was a big cinematic or voice acted sequence, which for me, even just from a point of view of enjoying these kinds of things, it's nice to reflect on how some of these techniques, or some of these ways that the world seems bigger, are not necessarily tied with spending more. Anyways, that's a longer rant than that needed to be. Let's do a quick... So obviously it'd be nice to get more spires, but presumably to get more spires, I'm going to need to do more quests. Trial of Archons will continue on its own. I am tempted to go to the ruined estate. Or we can do the fire inside. I think we will talk with Verse, and then we will... well, we'll talk with Verse. We'll see what the options are in terms of doing the... in terms of doing the various quests. It might turn out to be really out of the way to do one or the other. But barring... Oh, actually, you know what? We're probably going to wind up going back to the Sunset Spire, which is fine, because then we can do Versus quest here. We'll head to the Bastard City, the Shattered Bastion, and then we can head back to Effigy. But I'm going to take a small break, and when I'm back, I will hopefully have some water, and we'll have about another slightly less than 90 minutes of Tyranny. So I will see you all in a little bit. Now would be a good time to get up, get a glass of water, take care of yourself, and yeah. I need to... I also need to go to the bathroom, so I'll try not to take it too long, but I got too much stuff to do. I will see you in a bit. Okay, I am very sorry about how long that took. First of all, probably shouldn't have put the kettle on, but in the process, basically kind of dropped my glasses behind the desk, and it turns out my glasses are like the exact shade of the darkened floor. Those are not easy to find, so I do apologize, but we're back and ready for some more tyranny. Yes, so we'll chat with Verse and then see what
Couldn't
the
help
quest
but
looks
notice the bird from Cacophony.
Verse smirks as you approach, scrutinizing you with her mismatched gaze. Received a missive from the Archon of Secrets.
Obviously. Unless you've got a secret admirer among the Bloodhounds. I've always found the whole sunburn from within look a bit of a turnoff, but whatever gets your pants juice flowing. But seriously, you're not the Voice's favorite person in the tiers. This missive must be good.
Want to read it?
Maybe summarize it for me?
Verse glances at the Voice's wildly inconsistent lettering. You can't read?
It's never struck me as being the most useful fucking skill. Wanna make something of it?
I could teach you.
Hey, it's not that I... Maybe after we're done opening people up, assuming we both survive?
He thinks he's found one of your sister's killers.
Wait, what? He found one of the shits who killed my Furies? Let's pack up and go.
There's something else. These strange symbols on the back.
There's a lot to love about spycraft. The trickery, the blade work, keeping your senses awake, balancing on the edge between confusion and discovery. Memorizing the Archon's childish pictographs is not my favorite part.
She examines the parchment, frowning.
Malfora. She's one of Harshion's people. Bit boring, but gossipy in the way that pays. We should be able to find her along the road to Lethian's Crossing.
And she's just going to trust us?
The Voices gave us the passphrases that will get Malfora to open up to us. When we find her, let me do the talking and everything should run smooth as sea glass.
She rubs her hands together.
This will feel good, Finder. Wildly, incredibly, stupidly good.
The Archon's sudden interest in your revenge doesn't seem suspicious to you?
Are you asking me if I trust the Voices of Narat, Archon of Secrets, Spy Master, Arcane Pillar of Green Smoke and Flame, Immortal Magician, Eater of Minds, and Connoisseur of Perversions? Of course not. But if it's some convoluted trap, I'll have your back and you'll have mine, right?
Let's go.
Lead the way.
Travel to the Merchant Crossroads to meet Verse's contact. The Voices of Narat's missive included a cipher Verse can use to obtain further intelligence from an informant at Merchant Crossroads near Lethian's Crossing. Travel there and find out what this merchant knows. Yeah, so kind of as expected, we can sort of, not exactly, but we can sort of go there on the way to the Shattered Bastion. It will take you 2 days, 2 hours to complete your journey from Secluded Forge to Merchant Crossroads. My dear Fatebinder, it's a poorly kept secret that Bledenmark's job is more about killing threats before they become a problem. Official executions are really the minority of his duties. As I understand it, Kairos has long used Bledenmark as a preventative measure. Since he can move about the world rather freely, and he can evade all but the most absurd powers, he's the perfect predator to send against wild talents. I'm sure few in the tiers have ever actively wondered why there have been seemingly so few Archons born this far west. I'm sure folks with the potential to be Archons have occurred in the tiers time and time again. They're usually cut down by Mark before the world hears of them. It's likely safe to assume Bledden Mark has his eye on you and has orders to use his own judgment as to when to strike. I've known the old man for ages, and I'd strongly encourage you not to try to appeal to him with overt displays of loyalty. He has no stomach for sycophants. I sincerely believe he thinks every human being is a selfish, twisted knave, and that there are those who are lying about it, and those that accept what they are. No third type exists. So yes, I do think Bledden Mark will one day have to come for you. As I said, you could always hide or end your life now. Where you're headed, conflict is likely inevitable. Myothis. Ask about the Archons and how they've risen to power. Dear Myothis, I appreciate the insight and am honored by your vote of confidence. Your missive made mention of Graven Ash and how you've come to know him since before he wore the title Archon of War. Can you tell me more of what you observed of his rise to power? If I am indeed an Archon, it's safe to say I was born knowing what I can or can't do, and it stands to reason that I might learn something from the stories of other Archons. I'm just going to take some time to take a look around before we interact with Malfora. Verse did say, leave the talking to her. I'm not open for business, friend, and I'm not looking for trouble. Basilia in Lethian's Crossing expects me with this shipment shortly. I wouldn't want to keep her waiting. The merchant watches you warily as you approach, a heavy pack hanging from her shoulders. Soft and well fed, this one, but look at her stance. She can handle herself. First takes the woman in with a long, apprising gaze. Excuse me? The merchant blinks. Glares silently. You must have mistaken me for someone else, I assure you. Oh, fine. The road to Stalwart is paved in iron. Verse sighs. Farms of Azure are mostly air. She nods with relief. Say nothing. Yet their papers aren't aflame. Charming. Sorry about the formalities. If word got back to the voices I was cutting corners on security, let's just say I prefer my tongue in my mouth and my bowels in my, well, bowels, I guess. She shakes her head. I know you. You were the governor of the crossing, right? I doubt you remember me. Traders come and go. I'm Malfora. She opens her hands out to you, palms out. So what does the voices of Nerat want us to know? Not one for foreplay, are you? First shakes her head. Right. Malfora glances between the two of you before her eyes settle on Verse. The man you're interested in calls himself Crocus. No idea whether that's his mother. That's what his mother named him. Showed up in the crossing a few months back, picking fights and looking for rings. He ran afoul of the garrison, and they stomped the pants gravy out of him. That's quieted him down for a bit, but when he started casting about for work again, he boasted of this victory against a band of Furies during the war. Kairos peace protects Scarlet Furies. I think a story like that would scare off any potential employers, but Asa's never been the brightest ring on the rope. She shakes her head. Who's Asa? A cloth dealer, originally out of Azure, runs a circuit from the crossing to the Brothers and down into the calmer edges of the Bladegrave. He hired Crocus and a few others last week, claiming he needed extra protection for his daughter. Why had he brought his daughter to the crossing in the first place, Overlord only knows. Thoughts? Shit sticks. It's not going to be easy to find a caravan between here and the Bladegrave. First curls her lower lip between her uneven teeth. Luckily for you, I'm very good at what I do. Malfora smiles and produces a scroll from her pack. He usually goes to Stalwart by way of the Ocean Spire, but he's cutting east to make time and avoid beasts. She wraps a knuckle on a thick black line. Your best bet's to wait for him here at Hunter's Respite. She points to a position just south of Haven. What can you tell me about Hunter's Respite? Small stretch of wilderness far enough off the trade road to dissuade raiders, but near enough to avoid losing much time. The isolation recommends it, but not much else. Honestly, the Respite's starting to get too well known as a stopover. I give it a year before thieves start hitting it. She sighs. I'm supposed to wait for him and just hope he shows up? If you want to catch Crocus, yes. Ace is taking the southern road out of Haven, so he'll almost certainly stop there. He's never made a great secret about it being his favored resting stop around these parts. What's your role in all of this? Just who are you exactly? Mostly, I'm open ears. Came up in the bastard tier, but made for Haven when I could leave home. She twitches, then waves off a bug that buzzes past you. Started hauling goods between the crossing and Sunder, eventually expanding down to the brothers and even as far as Ardent in a good year. Conquest was bad for business. By then, though, I had heard and knew a lot more than I did before. Thought I could turn profit swapping information with the Archon. I thought right. Not that I'm complaining, mind you. Hail Kairos. She straightens and quickly salutes. Thank you, Malfora. Yeah, thanks. When we find this bastard, we'll open him from balls to chin. You now know everything I know about this so-called Fury Slayer. If you have any other questions, you'll have to ask someone else. Malfora bows informally at the waist.
Can't do that.
Not far from the main trade road south towards Stalwart, but removed from the most territory staked out by the disfavored Legion and Chorus gangs. This wooded glade has become a popular resting location for caravans since the invasion of Kairos' forces. Nope. As you approach the Bronze Clan caravan guards, they look up as one, leaving dice and rings on the ground as their hands move to weapons. Who goes there? Actually, you know what? It doesn't matter. Turn back the way you came, stranger, or things will get bloody with a quickness. I see some caravan guards, but not the caravan. Why are you over here? I don't see how that's any of your business. He glances over his shoulder towards the north and back to you. We're paid guards. We get paid to guard. We don't pick where we guard. We don't ask why about the where. That makes sense, right? His brow knits as he looks to one of his fellows. The other guard shrugs. I understood perfectly. Of course you did, Bronze Brain. You have questions in need of answering, you speak to Crocus. Find him up the hill to the west. As good as gone.
Sorry, I can't.
A tall, thin man in bronze and leather scrutinizes your approach, hand on the hilt of his blade. That's far enough, stranger. Oi, Crocus, we've got company. His voice comes out low and rough, a tears-accented growl. A massive man answers the lookout's cry, his approach marked by a pronounced swagger. Crocus rests a massive axe on one broad shoulder. His hair seems to have migrated largely from his scalp to his chin, and the veins at his temples stand out against his deeply tanned skin. Besides Cairo here, I've got an entire squad behind me, experienced warriors all, so I'm left wondering, who the fuck are you? As amusing as some of these are, I think I'm going to do the athletics. I'm here for Crocus. The rest of you have this one chance to leave with your gut still inside you. Two of the mercenaries share a look of concern before backing away from the rest. Motherless beast shits! Twigs snap underfoot as two of Crocus's supporters turn and flee. He turns back to you, cheeks flushed with rage. Besides Cairo here, I've got an entire squad behind me. Well, except for the two. Experienced warriors all, so I'm left wondering, who the fuck are you? I'm Fatebinder Solon, but more importantly, this is Verse. And I'm about to adjudicate your head open. Justice for my Fury sisters. She grins hungrily. Oh, shit! To arms! Mercenary blinks rapidly as recollection sets in.
Look at that.
Okay, gotta get Barrack up front. We'll back everyone else off.
Add a future.
Okay, so we'll get Lantry to do the ice first.
Consider it done.
You got it. Bleed out, you little shit.
I got it.
You won't enjoy this.
Alright, so I need to do the thrust afterwards to mark the target.
I'm on it.
Praise bone to savor devil!
Beneath me. This weapon is entirely worthless. That's beneath me.
Not a problem, boss.
Okay. Shouldn't take too much more effort to...
Count on it.
Hold, for the love of Kairos! He clasps his chest, blood oozing between his fingers. Hold like you held when you and your friends killed my fucking sisters? For the love of Kairos, indeed. Her words escape her clenched teeth in a half-hissed breath. She slips a small knife from her boot, and in a flash of bronze opens the fallen man's cheek. Hold! Please, wait. I'm not proud of what I did back then. I'm a changed man. I swear it by the Overlord. I've got a wife now. She's asleep right over there. He points back towards the nearby tents and bedrolls. I earn an honest living by the damn acts. I protect licensed traders. You're not proud? You've been boasting about it all over Haven. What? No, you don't understand. I couldn't find work otherwise. I thought maybe I could win a few fights in the crossing to prove my mettle, but the fucking guards there jumped me as a group. So I had to tell people about the Furies. It was talk about your sisters or starve and let my wife starve. He looks to Verse. Is this better than starving? Her boot comes down hard on his ankle, eliciting an audible snap. The sound dissipates into his scream. Overlord, help me. I never wanted to hurt anyone. It was my damn job. I swore an oath to the Apark's Lord because I wanted bed and food, not because I thought Kairos would ever come to the Tears. He sobs. That oath didn't just dissolve when your armies passed the gates of judgment. I had to kill conscripted Tearsmen by the gang. And yes, I helped kill your friends. His head droops, a pink froth of sweat, mucus, and blood dripping from the tip of his nose. Not friends, asshole. Sisters. Sisters, then. It wasn't my idea. Catorius had the location. Sick bastard wanted to cook them with flames. Irissa, she wanted to hunt Furies. Wanted a head on a pike so she could wave it at her enemies before battles. I was just following orders. Said Catorius cooked people? I never actually saw him eat anyone, but I'm sure he did. You could see it in his eyes when he looked at you, that hunger. He was a sage, so maybe that explains it. Overlord knows what those scroll fuckers do in their libraries. Certainly not cannibalism. Copulating with scrolls has been frowned upon for centuries. Took one of you alive, you know. What? What the fuck are you talking about? Her eyes widen. After you disappeared, we realized that one of your Furies was still alive. The big bald one. Catorius took her. Never saw her after. He is silenced by Verse's fist. Liar! She punches him again and again. Where's Catorius now? I don't know. I swear by everything and everyone I'd tell you if I knew. He probably died in the Edict of Fire. Served him right if so. If not, well, he deserves this treatment more than me. Where can we find Irissa? Like I said, Irissa burned with the fire of revolution. After Apex fell, the crazy bitch wouldn't lay down her spear. Last I heard, she was down in the Blade Grave, joined up with those stalwart shitheels, killing disfavored in the Overlord's endless storm. Here. He fumbles with a case at his side before offering a well-soiled parchment in his blood-slick fingers. This is from her. She wanted me to come find her and take up arms again. I didn't write back. I'm changed. I love the Overlord. Praise Kairos! How do you want to play this verse? It's a delicious tragedy, I'll give you that. Let's write it a suitably bloody ending. She fingers the edge of her small bronze knife. I've sworn loyalty to Kairos. Go hunt Irissa. Go kill Catorius. They're your true enemies. They're the ones who deserve your justice. He tries to push himself away from Verse, but his heels skid uselessly, plowing furrows into the bloody muck. Don't worry. We will. Grasping his gore-matted beard, she jerks his chin upwards and places the knife against his exposed throat. Please! A bubble of pink mucus expands and contracts in his left nostril. I'm not sure about this one. I will say subject of Kairos, and so Verse, this man has suffered enough. Suffered enough? He hasn't begun to suffer. She delivers a swift kick to Crocus's groin, drawing forth a scream from the broken man. Interesting, I'm not actually strong enough to do it. I heard him claim loyalty to Kairos, so I'm granting him protection under Kairos's peace. Stand down. Are you kidding me? Mercy for this sack of shit? She meets your eyes for several seconds and then sighs. Fine. This one's for seeking sheath. She gives Crocus a hard kick to his knees. He stumbles to his feet, one arm clamped over his ribs. Without looking, he ambles towards the small campsite, sweeping up his pack and slinging it over one shoulder. He carefully hefts the sleeping girl into his arms, cradling her, and carries her from the clearing.
Erissa's next. Let's go find her.
She turns to go, but comes to a stop instead. She lets out a quiet sigh and looks back at you.
Seeking was special, you know.
Tell me about her.
Seeking was all dynamo. Short, with hair like moss on a stone and skin the color of the night sky. Laughed at everything, even insults.
She smiles wistfully.
She never stopped moving. If we camped, she paced the tents or palisades, always pushing us to get on.
She lets out a low chuckle.
Part of it was the gambling. People would stop taking her bets after a day or two. The first time she says she can put a javelin in an apple at 100 yards, a man puts rings down. The second time, he's willing to go double or nothing. The third, that's when he stops betting.
Sounds amazing.
Kairos' crooked cock, was she? Crazy thing about Seeking, it wasn't raw talent. She practiced that shit. The spear work and the javelins, practiced every hour she wasn't sleeping or on assignment. She'd thread the sky with 3 or 4 javelins and dance towards her foe with a spear longer than she was tall. She'd knock a soldier's feet out from under him and let the javelin pin him to the ground. That's her name. Her spears found their marks as if they sought them.
Go on.
Her name meant more than the spear play. Seeking always sought, always looked for new things, new experiences, new stories, new men, new bits of lore. In summer, she'd collect stinging insects, fill thin clay jars with them, and smash them against her foes. No fight was ever even for Seeking. You either got the drop, or you got dropped. Thanks. You know, for listening.
She shakes her head roughly, as if clearing the fog from it.
Let's go. This oath-breaking scumsack won't hunt herself.
I'm curious what the net loyalty change for that was. Angry Beejar OB. Versus Seeking Sheath stance has been upgraded. Okay. You learned from Crocus that Erissa, one of Apex's soldiers who destroyed Versa's gang, can be located among a group of Unbroken at the Torn Strand. Travel there with Verse to confront her. That wasn't what I wanted. Oh yeah, here we go. So Verse fair. Oh right, no, it's loyalty. So yeah, Verse was disappointed by your orderly, honorable ways, but you listened to Verse speak about her sister, so we're basically complicated relationship with Barrack, let's say. I should probably actually take the time to read these. So, Sigil of Emotions. The energies evoked by the Sigil of Emotions both fortify and undermine the mental humors, creating passions in the target ranging from apathy to blinding rage. The Blood Chanters of the Scarlet Chorus are the self-professed masters of the Sigil of Emotions, having developed the technique through the study of Siren, Archon of Song. So what does it do? So Enraged Mind causes an ally to fly into a furious rage, Gains the enraged affliction, recovery reduced by 25, health increased by 15, will reduced. Okay, so at range, taunting jest. Fair enough. All right. Definitely, I can definitely see myself adjusting some of the spells now that I've got a higher lore skill for Solon, but I don't know. I'll do it later.
On it.
An empty bedroll sprawls among the cluttered supplies left behind. All right, we'll see if the iron guitar and the light leather gauntlets find a use in the team. I mean, they're basically the same. Which ones do I think look cooler? So those are an upgrade. Unfortunately, the rest of these, the recovery's too slow, so I can't change it for Lantry. And not enough damage. I don't think this bow...
On it.
A ransacked cart seems to have been hastily hidden behind some foliage. It contains several crates filled with bolts of unsoiled cloth and unspoiled food.
Let's have it then.
More tallies to the... I'll take care of it.
You got.
I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it.
Squirrely bastard, aren't you?
Okay, so I'll get Lantry to... I should be helping Barrack. No, not that one.
As you command.
Fall before me!
I need to try a different weapon.
Not sure if that helmet was heavy or not. It was. So I mean, that was completely unnecessary combat, but I figure it's probably going to help us get our. It's going to help us get some experience. Sorry, you learned from Crocus that Orisa, one of the Apex soldiers who destroyed Versus Gang, can be located among a group of Unbroken at Tornstrand. Encounter in the Blade Grave. While making your way through the wilderness, you come upon several dense shrubs liberally dotted with crimson berries. The fruits are plump and right, with a thin skin that gives slightly under the pressure of your touch, hinting at the juice within. We can identify the plant, harvest the berries, defer to Lantry, or continue on. So attempt to identify the plant. You recognize the plant as budding rose, a blush that produces edible berries. These are a known aphrodisiac, commonly used in local festivals. Unfortunately, they're also mildly toxic to practitioners of magic. Well, that's fine. I don't want to do it with Lantry anyway. Harvest the berries. You carefully pull several of the berries from the plant. Eat a berry, offer berries to a companion, or leave with berries. You look over to your companions. Budding Rose, Fatebinder? Verse asks, eyeing the berries. Didn't know you felt that way about me. And here I would have thought you were the type to come right out and ask. She shakes her head. Either way, I'm afraid I'm going to have to decline. Not interested in complications right now. And those are little round red complications. Eat a berry. A warm tingling sensation spreads from your guts. Your hair stands on end and your skin feels almost electric to the touch. Chills creep from your spine, running along your limbs to the tips of your extremities. The edges of your vision blurs and your bowels churn. Be sick. You spend the next several hours alone, muscles contracting in irregular spasms as your body does everything in its power to purge the berries from your innards. You see the sigils of the Archons, even ones you've never heard of before in your mind's eye, but they shift and twist as indistinct as a mirage. Finally, the sickness passes, and you make your way back to the road to resume your journey, eager to put this episode behind you. Dysentery. Being reduced under 75%, 50 and 25% health percentage will cause a long interrupt. Solon, this is the sort of question that can get you killed. Very little is known about how Archons are born or come to power, and my long life has taught me that Kairos and the Archons prefer it this way. If the young and talented remain forever in the dark, the old and mighty can rule without challenge. I heard of Ash, and he will always be merely Ash to me, before Kairos renamed him and gave his legion that backhanded title, as a rebel. A grimy, illiterate partisan who was winning battles while his countrymen of the Northern Kingdom lost left and right. Ash was always a good leader, but he wasn't born able to mystically reach out and protect his soldiers. The earliest mention of it isn't even until the tail end of the Northern Conquest, and if you read the journals, they don't tell stories of grievous harm warded off by Ash's stern looks. Instead, they talk of his soldiers finding their fears and doubts lifted from them by Ash's presence. A careful reading suggests the ability to actively protect physical harm came years later, as that bond grew and, more importantly, as his legend grew. That legend part is the key detail. In my understanding, an Archon's power is something of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The widespread perception of an Archon's power is the very thing that strengthens an Archon's power. So in Ash's case, he had some early inkling of a power, the ability to assuage the burdens of his men, and as he took on the mantle of power and became known all around Terratus as the next Archon of War, it soon became the ability to bear the physical burdens of his men, not just their fears and doubts. Thus my advice to you is to act like an Archon. Take power where you can find it. Foster fear, foster love. Never walk through life anonymously, but rather live in the thoughts of your followers and the anxieties of your enemies. Dear Myothus, thank you for weighing in on all of this. To ask perhaps too obvious a question, if I am such an anomaly, such a threat, why hasn't the Overlord dealt with me right away? An edict or just a simple request to Bled and Mark would be no small threat. Neither seems to have happened just yet. What is your take on this? Why hasn't Kairos dealt with me? Alright, it's late enough and I don't want dysentery, so I'm going to do a camp. Camping will use one set of camping supplies. Do you want to camp here? The air in Torn Strand hangs entirely unstirred by any breeze, as if the now broken edict of storms had exhausted the area's propensity for wind. That storm instead resides in you. A haggard group of soldiers in tarnished bronze await you. One man steps forward, pulling off his helm to reveal a grime-roughened face of deep umber cross-hatched with pale scars. If it isn't Graven Ash's harlot, the Fatebinder. The soldier growls and tightens his grip on his weapon. The leather squeaks beneath his fingers. I am Diocles, son of Tyrannos, and it will be both honor and pleasure to remove your motherless head from your shoulders. I present a blue flag of peace. In accordance to ancient customs north and south, I offer and request a delay of blade. In accordance with ancient customs, north and south, you can shove your blue flag right up back up Graven Ash's graven ass. A round of hearty laughter issues from the Unbroken's patrol. Which one of you is Orisa? What could someone like you possibly want from Orisa? He glances back at his fellow soldiers. They look among themselves as his attention returns to you. Mercenary named Crocus informed us that she was involved in killing some Scarlet Furies. I don't know the name, but back in Apex, Orisa had some less than honorable compatriots. She tried to convince me that this One Haven mercenary was no stranger to killing for rings. Turns out he was a crook with as many names as alliances. When Orisa got word that he sold some of his charges into slavery, she broke ties with him. Unfortunately for you, Orisa's long dead. Since there's nothing for you here, maybe you'd like to haul your ass out of Stalwart. He points back in the direction from which you came. Shit, I knew this seemed too easy. What can you tell us about Orisa? Absolutely nothing. She's dead, we're not. I suggest you pack your gear and go. They haven't been much use to us, have they, Verse? Not in the least, Binder. Shall we? She grins, readying her weapons. Let's show him why we're called the Unbroken. His soldiers let out a furious clarion and storm towards you.
Another
Lantry seems disappointed that there's a battle going on.
battle.
You got it.
We're bad at making
I'm on it.
Sorry, can't do that.
Burning.
Let's do it, you and me.
Okay. I'm gonna change it up a little bit.
As your command.
Versus... definitely in trouble.
Let's have it.
Damn thing couldn't pierce cloth.
Okay, that gives us a little bit more to work with.
Consider it done. On it.
Wish I had an interrupt, or you know what, I did have an interrupt, but I think it's going to be too late now. Yeah. Alright. Could be better, but...
What is wrong with my weapon?
Okay, good.
Will do.
You got it.
I have no other way.
Not a problem, boss.
This weapon is entirely worthless.
Pity you won't enjoy this as much as I do.
Shit, none of these people were there when my sisters died. Verse surveys the carnage, wearing a grimace. Check the bodies with me. Maybe there's something here that will help. You search Diocles' remains, shifting his dead weight and ignoring the drip of gore to reach his belongings. Your hand comes away wet, clutching a roll of parchment and a tightly wrapped bundle. What you got there? Verse peers at the wet bundle you plucked from the corpse. Read the note. You break the seal and unroll the missive. The parchment is lettered in a clean hand, the language surprisingly clear and crisp for a tearsman. Diocles, whoever succeeds him. I came to Stalwart with little and I didn't need... Diocles, or whoever succeeds him. I came to Stalwart with little I didn't need for the fight. Only these gloves, a trophy from a skirmish long past. Should I fall at Trapper's Junction, please see to it that they return to my sister, Clea, at our family's homestead at River's Break in Apex. Tell her to use them well, and that I wish I could have been there to deliver them myself. Thank you for this, Irissa. Show verse the note. See for yourself. She locks eyes with you, snatches the parchment, and looks it over. With a shake of her head, she thrusts the scroll back towards you. You gonna read it, or leave me guessing? Orissa wanted these gloves given to her sister, Clea of River's Break. You say gloves? She swipes the leather package and tears it open, revealing a pair of gloves of supple leather edged with a series of sharpened bronze blades. Fuck, I've missed these. You know these gloves? They belong to one of my Furies. Verse replaces the wrappings with care. So Orissa had a sister. Sister for a sister, then. There's a certain poetry in it, right? You suggesting what I think you're suggesting? We need to find this Clea. She must know something about who Orissa ran with during the war, right? And who knows, maybe she'll turn out to be someone in need of a good stabbing through the face. Verse smiles, her eyes glinting. If we go to River's Break, we're not going in with weapons drawn, understood? That's how you want it, Binder. No killing until we know she deserves it. Or until she forces our hand. Come on, screw this place. She gestures towards the road. As you turn, a gauntleted hand rests on your shoulder. A moment, Binder. What is it, Barrick? I've known Verse for a few years now. She's always been excitable. This is different. She seems rabid, heedless of danger, like the worst of the chorus instead of the best. He shifts with the sound of blades grinding together. Notice that. What I'm asking is that you keep an eye on her, for her well-being rather than just yours. The massive man rolls his shoulders with a shrug. Though if Verse were my soldier, I'd want her as collected as possible. That may never be an option. Thanks, Barrick. I'll do what I can for her. Thanks for hearing me out, Fatebinder. Barrick nods, patting your shoulder.
I've got it.
Alright, Orissa is already dead, and Verse wants to visit her vengeance upon Orissa's sister, Clea, instead. Their family's farmstead is located at River's Break in Vendrian's Well. And I think I'm probably going to have to leave it there. Still don't know. Yeah, okay. Probably makes sense for me to... Actually, you know what? We'll go to Ocean Spire. Status of your research. I'm happy to say I've made great progress. He beams at you and exhales a welcome breath. Allow me to show you my findings. Deathbringer can now be created with access to a Spire Forge upgrade and proper materials. I'm actually going to take the time to see the research options here. So I may want to train with athletics. I should also take the time to sell some of this stuff. Supposedly, Bleden Mark once wore 2 wedding shackles in the custom of his culture. I find it a daunting prospect. 2 shackles, meaning 2 marriages, joined in union at the same time. I'm unsure whether I envy or pity the man. That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think we've probably got everything from the... Yeah. Yeah, I definitely need much more money to make this happen. So, I think in general, I think I made the right call in terms of the magic training, because that is one of the main things I wanted to train people on. Unfortunately, because it turns out I maxed out my my lore. This has kind of left me short on some of the other stuff I'd like to train. I mean, if I want, I can probably have another rest. Actually, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea at this point. Yeah, so Isolon would be the one who... But the question is, I mean, I could get rid of Corpse Eye. Problem there is that will basically take out my bronze rings. So maybe wait until I'm a little wealthier. Okay, so what I'll do here, we will have a rest. Apparently that still leaves us rather late. But we do get the benefit of the Spire rest bonus. So the plan here will be doing the rest of the fire inside. After that, it really doesn't leave us with much to do. So again, just in terms of the various tasks, there's the Trial of Archons, which basically is going to be running in the background. Seats of Power, I'm going to assume happens as I go through the game. There's Hidden Truths, so that's to the north. So what I'll do there, I won't just finish the fire inside, but I'm actually going to take a quick visit to the Bastard Tier and see if I get anything out of that. But from there, we'll go to the Ruined Estate. And assuming that there aren't any other events that come up, then we'll move on to Extinguishing the Flames, because to me that seems to be the obvious sort of main story quest. But again, man, it really wants me to use all of the bonuses on the... There we go. I mean, it's not bad. I really should actually spend some time thinking about how I want to practice the magic. It's just, I don't know. I want to move the story forward. That's what I care about right now. But yeah, so we'll be when I can, we'll go to River's Break, which apparently is 14 hours away. That feels very long. But yeah, so plan will be River's Break. Go to the Bastard City, go to the Shattered Bastion. And then assuming that we don't have to do anything else, we will then head to Effigy, which presumably will have us break another edict, and then that will potentially give us another spire. We should have 2 more spires to claim. But all of that will happen in another stream. I'm not 100% sure what my plans are for the next few streams. So Friday I could do more of this, or I could do Cyberpunk, and I'm not sure how I feel either way. I am kind of interested in wrapping up Tyranny, so I wouldn't rule out the possibility of another Tyranny stream, but I've also been... It feels like I've been focused on one game for a while, which is not bad, but I also realize if people want a particular game, it's, if you don't like Tyranny, then that means it's several weeks that are not going to be very fun for you. So, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea to switch it out. Next week, exactly 1 week from now, there's going to be the local game dev meetup, so I won't be streaming then. But I believe for the rest of the month, I should double check this, but I believe I should be open. I know I have a doctor's appointment one of the streaming days, but that should be in the morning. So I think, except for next week, the 17th, we should have uninterrupted streams, although obviously I've been struggling to get things done on time. Let's find someone to host tonight. We've got a couple of people that I can host, but it's been a while since I've been able to host Revived Snow, who I believe is currently playing Space Marine 2. So for those of you that like large shoulder pads and shouty men, Revived Snow is your best option. Revived Snow is a fellow Canadian broadcaster. They have a channel which is a camless, voiceless broadcaster. I know I always used to joke about doing that, but Revived Snow does it quite well. So they use text-to-speech and a VTuber avatar. They do quite a bit of dare drop, and I feel like I could do a better job than introduce these positive traits through negatives. But one of the things I really wanted to highlight about Revived Snow that was refreshing for me was I remember very distinctly somebody who I had helped get in touch with a few sort of influencer managers at some like medium-sized publishers. And I was actually having some difficulty sort of reestablishing contact. There are some changes in terms of policies and all of that. And this individual basically sort of realized they had a good thing going, and all of a sudden they were a little bit less interested in talking with me, and like no, I don't want to ruin a good thing here, and didn't share. And again, it's up to them. They don't necessarily owe me anything, but it wasn't the nicest thing to do. Revived Snow is the exact opposite. Revived Snow has actually been actively encouraging me and getting me in touch with various groups. So it's I'm running out of time for this story, but definitely somebody who I admire for doing that. So please enjoy their stream, and we'll see you Friday.